This is Michael Popok, Legal AF. We can't stop talking about conflicts of interest and incestuous relationships among lawyers for Donald Trump, former lawyers for Donald Trump, former lawyers who are going to be witnesses against Donald Trump, because these issues keep coming up every day involving Donald Trump. Because the lawyers that he either pays for or represent him, all through the Save America Pact, now basically Save America Bankrupt Pact, because it's down to its last $4 million and has taken handouts from other political action committees that need to give it a loan and a refund. Put that aside for a minute. He's got a handful of lawyers that are willing to, I don't even want to say it, represent him for money. And in doing so, they represent multiple defendants and multiple witnesses in the same indictment. But let's talk about Evan Corcoran. Of the many weird things that happened during the arraignment in terms of attendees and people who decided they wanted to get within the close proximity of all the cameras and show the boss, Donald Trump, and the public, I guess, that they are still in the good graces of Donald Trump, the weirdest among the attendees was Evan Corcoran. Evan Corcoran is going to be a witness against Donald Trump. Evan Corcoran was the lawyer for Donald Trump for things at Mar-a-Lago once he got to Mar-a-Lago. He had another lawyer that handled presidential records, and he misled that lawyer too before he left the White House. But as soon as he got to the White House and as he negotiated through last summer to try to obstruct justice and not return the documents to the Department of Justice under federal order and at the order of a federal judge, who did he use for that? What was his weapon of choice for that? Evan Corcoran, knowingly or unknowingly participating in a crime or fraud as the chief judge of the D.C. Circuit Court at the time. Judge Beryl Howell has already ruled. In ruling that way, the judge stripped Donald Trump of attorney-client privilege, which the client holds, away from Evan Corcoran and made him testify to the grand jury for Jack Smith, made him turn over 50 pages of copious notes, painstakingly diarist notes about his interactions with Donald Trump over the documents, including where he commented that Donald Trump instructed that when he took Evan Corcoran, the 38 or so documents that Donald Trump let him see for that were top secret, confidential, needed to be returned, National Defense Information documents, putting aside the 67 boxes that Donald Trump hid from Evan Corcoran during the week that he had to run around with Walt Nauta, Carlos de Oliveira, and others to move the boxes around in a giant shell game, hiding them from his own lawyers. But even in trying to do that, Donald Trump effed that up and left about 40 or so documents in the boxes that Evan Corcoran found. Evan Corcoran in his notes said when he told the boss, his client, that he had found these 38 or so documents and was taking them back in an envelope to his hotel room near Mar-a-Lago, that Donald Trump made a plucking sound and told a story about his version of what he thinks happened with Hillary Clinton in the email server, that some IT person deleted 30,000 of her emails having to do with her getting her hair cut and colored and going to yoga and fitness, and that, why don't you just, and Evan Corcoran said he made a plucking sound, pluck them out and why don't we try that? And nobody gets in trouble for that, telling his lawyer to destroy evidence and remove it from boxes before he turned it over to obstruct justice. Exactly the claims that are now in the superseding indictment. That Evan Corcoran, by the way, I've been doing this 32 years. I've never taken on purpose 50 pages of single-space notes with a client of mine in which I recorded all of his deepest, darkest comments as part of the criminal conspiracy. Evan Corcoran did. And the grand jury saw them, and he will testify to that. This will be a big moment in the trial of Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago in the Southern District of Florida in May, when Evan Corcoran is called to the stand. Now, we've heard that Evan Corcoran was not fired by Donald Trump, nor did he resign. And now he appeared on arraignment day, not sitting next to Donald Trump, not with the lawyers, not at the big boy table or the big girl table, but sitting in the audience. Like Alina Habba, dressed inappropriately outside the courtroom, trying to get her continue her 2 minutes of fame. try to show the boss that she's still in his corner and that she's not irrelevant, even though she is. In the courtroom, you got Evan Corcoran. And the head scratching about it is, what's he doing here? So there's a theory, which I don't think works, that perhaps Donald Trump, under the old Godfather adage of keep your friends close and keep your enemies closer, keep witnesses that could hurt you still on the payroll, because it's better than having them inside the tent. Peeing in is better than outside the tent. You know what I'm trying to say. So let's just keep Evan Corcoran on the payroll. And then when there is an attack, because the defense team is going to try to attack what Judge Beryl Howell did to strip Donald Trump of his attorney-client privilege and make Evan Corcoran testify against him. That battle is going to play out in front of Judge Cannon down in Florida and into an appellate court, which would be the 11th Circuit. So that's going to be for another day. And they probably feel it's probably better to at least show the world that they have embraced perhaps strangulating Evan Corcoran to keep him close to the Trump side and try to have him argue that there wasn't crime or fraud that he was participating in. He wasn't misled. But given the facts that we know about what happened at Mar-a-Lago, many of which are in the indictment, Evan Corcoran's goose is cooked, and so is Donald Trump. I'll give you one example. There was a meeting on June 3rd of last year scheduled between Evan Corcoran and Jay Bratt, who's one of the lead lawyers for the Department of Justice and the head of counterintelligence. But he's prosecuting the case. There was a meeting to try to work out a deal to return the documents. This is the infamous meeting where they turned over. Evan Corcoran had Christina Bobb, his colleague, who did not do any of the search herself, but signed a sworn affidavit that says, under diligent search, these are the only top secret documents that are left at Mar-a-Lago. Love and kisses, Christina Bobb. Evan Corcoran made her do it and didn't sign it himself. How did we get to that envelope of 34 or 38 documents sealed, very officially, that Evan Corcoran, we know from his notes, took back to his hotel the night before, and Donald Trump gave him a wink to, why don't you get rid of the envelope? That envelope, how did we get there? A week earlier, as the notes for Evan Corcoran record and memorialize, Trump had a conversation with Corcoran a week before the meeting. And he said, I am going to be back in a week, Mr. President. And so you got to get me access to all the documents here at Mar-a-Lago that I need to go through, all of these, classified, declassified presidential records, whatever they are. I need to see them. And then the first reaction he recorded was Donald Trump saying, why do we need to do that? Why don't we tell him none? We don't have it. We're not going to respond to the subpoena. And he said, no, we can't do that. I'll be back in a week. That's the key there. And what Donald Trump heard in his mind, you can tell, is I got a week to go hide documents from my own lawyer. And so he enlisted Walt Nauta, caught on videotape, moving 38 boxes out of the storage room at Mar-a-Lago that Evan Corcoran already represented to the government that they were under lock and key and were not being moved. Moved 38 boxes, moved 63 boxes back, moved 20 boxes in and out, all week long. Walt Nauta, Carlos de Oliveira, other maintenance workers, other witnesses, Molly Michael, the assistant to Donald Trump, all moving boxes around. I mean, it was just a beehive of activity of the shell game of moving boxes in the 1 week that Evan Corcoran gave Donald Trump, that 1 week to do mischief. Now, some people might be saying Evan Corcoran did it on purpose, turned his back on purpose to let the documents end up wherever they may end up, including not in the room that he searched, and that may be true. And we'll get to the bottom of that in the trial. In the meantime, what happened is once all the shell game was over and the musical chairs stopped, Evan Corcoran arrived. I'm here, Mr. President, to do my search. Walt Nauta said, this is in the indictment, I'll help you. I'll go in there with you. And Evan Corcoran said, no, I got this. And did it alone. He went into a room identified by Donald Trump as the only room he should search. Not at the office next door with the don't look in Daddy's desk. Don't look in Daddy's other place. Don't come up to Daddy's bedroom and his personal quarters where I've got documents and folders. Just the storage room that Donald Trump had staged, right? Staged what was in there. He chose, literally per the indictment, Donald Trump chose what boxes, what documents, what covers, lids would be on those boxes. Donald Trump himself, not anybody else. And they have it on video, and they have it on witness testimony already with cooperating witnesses. Then Evan Corcoran arrives, goes in, and I'm not making this up, spends less than an hour, I think it was 45 minutes, going through this staged boxes of confidential top secret documents. And lo and behold, Trump effed it up because there were still 38 in there. And then we'll have to find out at trial, Evan Corcoran has the presence of mind not to sign on the dotted line under penalty of perjury that after a diligent search, these were the only documents. And he calls Christina Bobb in. Such a gentleman. So much courage, Evan Corcoran. Call in Christina Bobb and tell her to sign it. And she's got the presence of mind to write based on what I've been told because she didn't do the search herself anyway. And then she needs to get a criminal defense lawyer. Evan Corcoran needs to get a criminal defense lawyer. They all have to testify. Alina Habba standing outside the courtroom, banging a tambourine, whatever she was doing. She's got to get a criminal defense lawyer because she's got to testify to the grand jury because she searched through the desk before the search warrant was executed. And we know there were top secret documents in there from the pictures and the indictment. She had to search through the desk because they were screwing up document production in the New York Attorney General case that she used to represent Donald Trump on, but doesn't any longer, for the $250 million civil fraud disgorgement case up in New York. And she didn't send somebody, I'll do it, Judge, I'll go down and certify what documents are there. She stepped right into the jackpot, stepped right into the bear trap, searching under video, looking for stuff. And then so she had to testify. And all of them to continue to show that they continue to orbit their son, their God, their cult leader, Donald Trump, all showed up on arraignment day. I thought that was interesting. But to counterbalance it, because we don't blow smoke or sunshine on the MeidasTouch network, to counterbalance it and the forces of evil that showed up and the forces of head-scratching, Evan Corcoran, what are you doing? Why are you there? You're going to be a lead witness. I know you think you're not. They're going to try to argue when they try to quash the indictment at some point, move to dismiss the indictment, that the whole process of you turning over your notes and testifying at Donald Trump is inappropriate and should be removed and the indictment should be dismissed. That's for another hot take, another day when that motion is finally filed. But it's obvious they're yanking him in and tying him tightly, like Alina Habba, him, and whoever else they can, to keep them under this arrangement. I mean, that is the reason we got to talk about these conflicts of interest all the time on hot takes, to balance the forces of evil. We had a lot of other interesting people attending. I'll leave it on the hot take on this because I thought it was interesting. Who else decided to go? We had the magistrate judge, and the magistrate judge had her entire family there watching. I thought that was nice, heartwarming. We had Chief Judge Jeb Boasberg, who's the chief judge of the D.C. Circuit Court. Happened to be his courtroom, but he's not there because it's his courtroom where the arraignment happened, magistrate judge handling. He's there because he wanted to wear his black robe and sit in the courtroom and let everybody know that Chief Judge Boasberg, who's responsible for all the grand juries, including the one that indicted Donald Trump, is taking an interest. And next to him was another circuit court judge, Judge Amy Berman Jackson, who has written some of the most eloquent defenses of democracy and attacks and analysis of the Jan 6 insurrectionists in her sentencing and in her orders. And so Amy Berman Jackson, a patriot, decided she needed to be in that courtroom as well, along with several other judges. Now, the one judge that wasn't there was the judge that's actually going to be presiding over the trial and the process, the indictment process related to Donald Trump. And that's Tanya Chutkan. But she sent her own messages through the magistrate. They talked, let's put it this way. They talked before the magistrate judge took the bench. In fact, the magistrate judge was late 14 minutes. Maybe there was some last minute conversation over a nice cup of coffee or tea with Judge Chutkan, because this magistrate judge came loaded for bear. She said, I know what the judge wants in terms of Speedy Trial Act and setting trial. I'm going to give you guys deadlines and markers and control dates. Department of Justice on one side, defense on the other, to get the issue of the trial completely briefed by the 28th of August. Because on the 28th of August, when they all reconvene in front of the judge, the Article 3 judge, the presiding judge, Judge Tanya Chutkin, they're going to be setting the trial date for this case. And I'd be shocked. I've been shocked before, but as we like to say on Legal AF, we're almost never wrong. We're going to get a trial before 2024 is over and before the November election. Again, another one as we wait for Fawny Willis in Fulton County. I'm going to report it just on hot takes, just like this one. I do it one place. It's the MeidasTouch Network. We do these YouTubes. You knew that. You're following me here. We pull it all together on a show, a podcast, long format that sits at the intersection of U.S. law and politics. I co-founded and co-anchor. Call Legal AF. On Wednesdays, I co-anchor it with Karen Friedman Agnifilo. On Saturdays with Ben Meiselas. And then if you like what I'm doing, I do these hot takes about every day. Sometimes it feels like every hour on live coverage for the MeidasTouch Network. We follow the arraignments, the indictments, all the things that you care about. We sit at that valuable real estate at the intersection, the corner of law and politics, so you don't have to, and we report it to you with our analysis. Me as a 32-year trial lawyer in courtrooms just like the one I'm talking about now. And you can go over to the YouTube channel for MeidasTouch, free subscribe. Really, everything I'm talking about here is free. This is free. And you can go look for my playlist, Michael Popok, and you'll list there about 300 of my hot takes, all my hot takes in a library right up to the moment. If you like what I'm doing, you can follow me on social media. I'm there too, including on Threads, at MS Popok. Until the next hot take, it's Michael Popok, Legal AF reporting.
Hey, Meidas Mighty. Love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram, at MeidasTouch, to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.